Blade, you're dead! Get up!
The much-loved Blade movie franchise, starring Wesley Snipes, marks one of the first major steps in cinematic adaptations of Marvel comic characters, and the first two films in the trilogy set the bar high. However, the third and final movie, Blade Trinity, is regarded as the weakest link in the trilogy, even though it boasted of a stellar cast of all-stars. Among the others, a surprise addition to the cast was none other than the iconic Hunter Hearst Helmsley, aka Triple H, who played the role of a vampire named Jarko Grimwood. In this video, we will bring you everything there is to know about the character and his backstory, and also the details of Triple H's role in the movie. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Jarko Grimwood, and what is his role in Blade Trinity? Sometimes even a supporting character has enough substance in the role to make it memorable, and Jarko Grimwood is one of them. He features in Blade Trinity as one of the primary henchmen for Danica and Asher Talos, the vampire siblings who lead the family. Before we delve into the detailed narrative on Jarko Grimwood from the movie, maybe it would be best to explain some more about the Talos vampire family. The House of Talos was a powerful vampire family that became the most powerful in the vampire world after the fall of the House of Damascus, seen in Blade 2. The leader of the Talos family is Danica Talos, and she realizes the threat posed by Blade for her entire race. She takes her minions to Syria, and they find out the tomb of Dracula, the first and most powerful vampire. In order to find a cure for some of the common vampire weaknesses, they need the help of Dracula, and the vampire lord is awakened and brought to Talos' place. The vampires also seek his help in eliminating Blade, which would take away a major threat in their lives. The first time we see Jarko Grimwood in the movie is when the Talos siblings Danica and Asher head to the Syrian deserts to find the tomb of Dracula in a ziggurat. After they relocate Dracula to the Talos' headquarters, they are informed about the arrest of Blade by the FBI, and two of their families take him into custody. Jarko teams up with some other vampires to the FBI in order to seek out Blade, but they all come under attack by the Night Stalkers, the group of vampire hunters who are also there to free Blade. Jarko's fight with the Daywalker ends badly for him, as Blade proves to be a lot more superior. He uses another vampire as a shield and escapes before things turn any worse. However, his luck runs out when Abigail Whistler shoots an arrow at him and he is blinded in one eye. If she had used a silver arrow, he could have been dead as well, but he survives with the loss of an eye. When the news of their defeat reaches the base, the vampires find new leadership in Drake, who claims to be ready to join the fight and take command, much to the frustration of Danica. However, the new leadership proves to be quite effective, and the vampires take out many of the Night Stalkers. Even their cell leader, Hannibal King, is abducted, and Jarko Grimwood takes great pleasure in torturing the captive king. Unfortunately, his wisecracks and clever jibes fall short of the comebacks from King, and even the verbal contest ends badly for Jarko. After many hours of torture, King finally confesses that he has a transmitter hidden in his body, and shortly thereafter, Blade and Abigail arrive. Jarko is caught up in a face-off against Blade one more time, but he still manages to escape with his life. Meanwhile, Jarko's love for his pet vampire Pomeranian dog comes to the fore once again when King kills the dog along with two vampire Dobermen. He reappears in great fury to get his revenge and attempts to fight an exhausted Hannibal King. This time around, Jarko almost gets the better of King and is about to sink his steel teeth into his neck. All of a sudden, Hannibal King inserts a light bomb in his teeth, and Jarko ends up biting the bomb, which causes him to be incinerated. His death is not really as eventful as you would think, but what caught our eye is the fact that his love for his dog Pac-Man was so extreme that he dared to fight back against a superior opponent in great fury following its demise. Clearly, Jarko is a vampire who doesn't mind going down in a fight if the cause is right. He might be evil, but he is the right kind of evil.
Blade! You're dead!
What was the personality of Jarko Grimwood like? Jarko Grimwood might only be a henchman, but he does have a rather colorful personality. This brutal and violent vampire is slow in the head, and with his tall and muscular build, he is the perfect powerhouse for the Talos siblings. As the leader of their personal guard, he generally shows a brutal side of his character, but his love for his vampire Pomeranian shows that he has a soft side as well. He is furious when he finds out about the death of his beloved dog, but Jarko really lacks smart thinking, which eventually brings about his downfall. How powerful was Jarko Grimwood? First of all, Jarko Grimwood was well built, and his massive size allowed him to serve as the muscle power for the House of Talos. He was freakishly strong even for a vampire, and his mass and size meant that he could be an intimidating presence for his opponents. He had all the usual powers of a vampire, such as longevity, superhuman strength, speed, agility, and senses. Jarko was invulnerable to most conventional attacks, and his accelerated healing ability meant that he could recover from the worst of injuries. He possessed a set of metallic fangs instead of his natural fangs, and these were just as deadly as the normal vampire fangs, if not deadlier. What were some of the major weaknesses of Jarko? Jarko Grimwood might have been a powerful vampire, but he was also vulnerable to certain weaknesses that affected other vampires. He was vulnerable to sunlight, garlic, and ultraviolet light, just like any other generic vampire. Moreover, his constant urge to ingest blood was also a weakness for him at times. Even though he was a skilled hand-to-hand combatant, his powers were not enough to overwhelm Blade in a fair fight. Was Jarko Grimwood inspired by a Bond villain? James Bond and his unique rogues gallery have been an integral part of pop culture since the days of the first Bond movie. When Blade Trinity was being filmed, Bond was at the peak of his popularity, and it's not unnatural for the makers of Blade to be inspired from a particular Bond villain to create one of their own. Jarko Grimwood has steel teeth in this movie, which also makes him appear scarier than the others, and this is directly inspired by one of Bond's deadliest opponents, Jaws, played by Richard Kiel in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Inspiration or not, we aren't complaining, because his metallic fangs are absolutely fascinating on Triple H's Jarko Grimwood. Why was Triple H the perfect choice for the role? When New Line Cinema offered the role of this enigmatic and evil vampire, Triple H was immediately on board, and this was mainly because he knew that he was best suited to play the character. In general, vampires are shown to be slim and creepy, but Jarko Grimwood is an exception. He is unusually large and bulky, which meant that a WWE star would be the perfect choice, and even the harshest critics of the film had good things to say about the role played by Triple H. It's believed that New Line Cinema insisted on making his role bigger after they were impressed by his work ethic and camera presence. We even saw the wrestler pull off some of his wrestling moves in the film, such as his trademark knee-to-face move. Even Triple H described his experience during filming for the movie as having a blast. In his words, "It wasn't just the character, it was the whole experience. You know, the director David Goyer was great to work with, and the cast too. Everyone was just so much fun to be around." It does seem as though Triple H did not notice the tension on the sets between Wesley Snipes and Goyer, but clearly, his role was not impacted much from the feud between them. Ryan Reynolds was such a big fan of Triple H that he insisted on doing his fight scene against Jarko Grimwood without stuntmen, and this is the closest you will ever get to seeing a fight between Deadpool and Triple H. However, even though this was evidently a big Hollywood break for Triple H, he did not give up on professional wrestling and continued to perform as a full-timer in WWE well into his late 30s. Marvelous verdict. An imperfect film with the perfect Triple H. Say what you will about Blade Trinity, the movie still gives modern-day vampire movies a run for their money. Also, keeping aside the reviews of the film, which are not necessarily positive, you cannot deny the fact that Triple H is a solid entertainer. He owns the role of Jarko Grimwood, and even for a character that is somewhat insignificant in the main narrative, he plays a role that you will remember. That being said, the movie would have done well to keep such a character alive because Jarko Grimwood could be used in future Blade movies or TV shows to keep the lively spirit of the narrative and add a bit of comic relief. Also, we still cannot get over the steel-teeth vampire concept, and this ought to be explored more in vampire horror flicks. Do let us know in the comments below what you think of this particular character in Blade Trinity, and also tell us about your views on the performance of Triple H. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe, and thanks everyone.